And setting up, it says it takes a couple seconds yet. Done redirecting. And let's see. I think we're live. Yep. It says we're live on Facebook. So welcome everybody to our next installment of the Food Sovereignty series here with Two Feathers, Native Family Services. We're coming to you live today on this beautiful day. It's California Indian Day, so I want to give all my my Native peeps, wish you a happy Indian Day. And any non-Native folks that are watching, you must be pretty cool too to be turning in to us. So happy Indian Day to you guys too. Before we get started today, I want to give a shout out, or kind of more send our prayers, our thoughts, our energies up to our relatives up north in Nova Scotia way in Canada. Currently they are undergoing their own fish wars. Commercial fishermen are coming in and getting really mad at and taking it even further, and it's kind of a hairy situation up there right now. And so we wanted to let you guys know up that way that we stand with you, here on the North Coast. We've had our own fish wars back in '78, and even before that, that was kind of like the height of it all, right? It was in '78. And so we know what you're going through in a certain sense. And yeah, we stand with you guys, and in solidarity. And so, yeah, and now I would like to introduce my co-host, Shoshone Hostler. How you doing, Shoshone?
I'm doing great on California Indian Day. So give a shout out to all the natives out there celebrating today. And we just thought it was a holiday, but it was the best day. What an appropriate day to talk about food sovereignty and to come share with you. We have some really great guests today that have a wonderful presentation on surffish. And so I'm just going to send it all over to Marva and her crew to introduce themselves and talk about processing.
Da'ilahan de Ditnishti Shrinis, She Hu She Siko Testana Shling. We are so honored to bring you here to our corner of the world up here in Talawatini country, here at the mouth of the river. We're here at the mouth of the river at Dachundum, and we wanted to just come share some cooking with you today, share some Bashuk Gutshra and some Flumpsai with you, and talk a little bit about that with my mom and my auntie and my daughter about the importance of it. So I want to introduce you to my mom right here to my right, your left. And so who are you, Mama?
My name is Vicky. My Indian name is Lukum Nagat, and I'm the oldest in my family right now. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Dalaha, my name is Cheryl Sudachi Steinbruck, and Vicky is my older sister. I'm the second born of 4. And I want to come and share some of the knowledge that I have with regards to why we're doing this in the first place. And it's important for us to come together in these occasions. I know that we're doing this distance learning mode nowadays. And the goal that I have as a life goal is to teach, to learn, teach, learn, teach. We've been taught that our entire lives, and that's what we have been doing. And as our ancestors told our parents have taught us, it's our duty and responsibility to share with you. So that's why we welcome you here to our part of the world. And we'll be talking about various things. I want to talk a little bit about California Indian Day historically. I want to talk a little bit about all kinds of things, but we'll introduce ourselves and then we'll move on.
My mom's Marva.
Your name.
And I'm Yurok, Tala, Kudik, and Winton.
So like I said, we're honored for you guys to be here with us today, just for us to share. And so we wanted to talk a little bit more about why we're here. But we wanted to open up with a song and some medicine, just a little bit of prayer before we get started. You have a whole hour with us, so.
And let me give a little bit of background on this song, okay? The song we're choosing to do is Shumsh. We call it Shumsh, is smelt in our language. And as we were talking, we go every summer to dry our fish at a place called Yagio. And it's a tradition that we've carried on in our family that we've been doing this. And my grandmother was the one who secured the rights for us to be able to camp at Yagio. And so this song that we're going to do was a song that was made with J-Tuck Steinruck, our son, when he was about 15 years old. And he was fishing with the net that you see behind us here. And as he was going down to the waves, he looked up and he saw a whale. So he decided that he wanted to go to his Uncle Lorne, Lachlan Bomlin, and they worked together on the lyrics of this song. And that's what we've come up with, this particular song. And now it's a dance song, Natosh song. And we sing it throughout the year. We sing it, at the beach. We sing it today. We'll share it with you. In our culture, we sing songs twice. So what we're going to do, actually, we're going to sing it at the beginning of this, and we'll sing it at the end. So when we get to the end, because we always have to have two songs, okay, and no matter what we do. And we're going to, we lit some shronchki here. This is our chamai, our medicine. And we do this because it helps us to take the prayers. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start a song here. And I do a good job seconding, so we're going to have to work together here, girls. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to say real quick. When Talo women sing, we sit. So these chairs here are made special for us, these stools. That's in our Natosh as well, also known as our feather dance. And so, we sit and the men stand. So that's why we're sitting. Anytime you will see us do a Natosh song, the women will sit and the men will stand.
We also have whale bones that you can sit on. A long time ago, whales would wash up on the shore, and when the whale was decaying, they would take their big vertebrae from their spine and dry them out, and that's also what women sat on, was whale bone from the spine of this whale, sperm whale.
Okay, it says we're off. Hey, I know, hey, I ho, hiya. Hey, I know, hey, I ho, hiya. Hey, Chiliton, hey, la ho, hala. Hey, I know, hey, I ho, hiya. Hey, I know, hey, I ho, hiya. Hey, I know, hey, I ho, hiya. Hey, ho. Okay, so you gonna say a prayer? Do it. Okay. We're gonna show the process of making bread today. We're gonna share that with you today, and we're also gonna show the baking of the bread. There's also a misnomer. People are like, sand bread, you guys eat sand? And that's a common theme, but it's actually the method that we cook the bread in. We're not actually cooking in sand, we're actually cooking in pebble. So actually the word should be pebble bread, but our ancestors called it sand bread, so that's what we go with. And so we're baking some bread, and we're also going to be baking some dried fish and showing you the process of eating some dried fish. A common practice here on the coastline, clear down to Pomo country all the way up north. So we're so thankful that this teaching has survived in our family, and we're able to share it today. Hopefully that'll inspire others to also continue on their surface drying.
The one thing too I wanted to say, in addition to our what we're going to show you, is our slumpshes over here in a touch. And the pebbles that we're talking about that the oven is made with is actually what the shumps lay the smelt in when they're running. Okay, the smelt lay their eggs in the pea-sized gravel, and then they're fertilized. And so then what we do is we catch them in the nets behind us, and then these are laid out on grass beds initially, and then they're moved on to sand beds. And so there's a whole process in taking care of the dried fish. So this is the end product. And what we do when they're all finished being dried, and we shake the tails off. When this beach grass would not be in here, but we would shake the tails off, and it takes about 2 weeks for the fish to dry. And so what we're going to show you today is once this is dried out, and this is our food store. Now, back in the day, they would have to prepare all this food, as many pounds as you needed per person in your home. And then this fish was stored. And then you ate it throughout the wintertime when there was, hard times with rain and all that. But we used to have redwood trees around here, and so it rained a lot back in the day. So then this was a staple, right along with our acorn sanchin and our jasunt, deer meat, jishchusant, elk meat, our salmon, all that. And we'll share it with you. So what we're going to do is show you our process of how we cook this then in the oven that we've made, and talking a little bit about the oven that we have over here. It is this pea-sized gravel that's about as big as your little fingernail, and we go around and we gather that, and we build a big deep hole in the sand, and we line that with rocks, these special rocks. Then you fill it up with nothing but the gravel. Get this oven ready for cooking, you have to build a fire on it at least 5 hours in advance so that it heats all the way through those pebbles. And then when we get ready using and then we'll show the whole view. This is uncooked pebbles. And then we're going to show you how we warm the fire. So if you are up here, start. They typically do this in this time of year down the beach. The tides are way too high for us to go down there, and so our pit isn't accessible right pit. This is our 4th one, and it's a smaller pit. It's just a demonstration pit during fish camp. So and she's going to be sharing her technique, and she doesn't measure anything. She just tosses it in. So she's making us some bread here.
I'm going to start out with you have to start out with the bread, and I'm going to use whole wheat. I'm going to use processed organic flour, and we're going to put some baking powder in it and some salt. And I don't use sugar or milk or any of that.
Because she's too sweet already.
I use water only, and even at home, I don't put all the other stuff in when I make fry bread. I just make the same bread as that I was taught by my older people. And I was one of them. We have camp, and my mom and dad were nice enough to let me have the camp for a few years in my life. And every year I made sand bread down there for the family. Flour.
So mom's add a little bit more flour here to her mixture that was pat
From Lila.
Lila.
Yeah. As a child, I was always left behind by my cousins. They'd run all over the beach on the log jams. Now we don't have log jams anymore because we don't have trees. But when I was a kid, clumsy and always the last one, so I would just cry. And then once I got off the log jam, I'd walk up the beach and visit all the camps, and they'd let me come in long as I didn't touch anything, kept my mouth shut and my ear kid. And I've always been fortunate to have known all my old people and talking about it today makes my heart ache because
So Cindy's throwing in some bread right now. If we can stand
yeah,
over there real
she's
quick.
cooking now.
Oh, so we had the fire on this pit all morning. Since early this morning, Marva started this fire, and we've moved all the wood, all the coals, and cleaned the knock it down stem, the pebbles, the cooking area. And I made a little hole. We just put the sand bread in, and now I'm covering it with the hot pebbles. And this is what bakes it. So this is gonna stay in here and bake while you guys watch Auntie finish making the dough. We use a different colored rock to mark where the bread is, and then we're gonna wait for it to bake. The temperature is constantly changing, so you have to use your nose. You have to be able to smell it. And when you smell that flour, the acorn, the sanchen, and the bread baking, I'll pull it back a little bit, check it, and usually it's done by the time.
So mom's over here mixing her bread up for the next batch. We have one in right now to show you how we're cooking it. We also are going to be eating this meal with some of the harvested foods that we did this year. We were a little bit lucky to get some nice eels and some nice seaweed and salmon, and we got some fresh tea picks and some seasoned tea. This thigh right here, and some fluk and dashhan and salat.
Gee, I hope it turns out.
So this is an activity that we do every fish camp.
Get the speeds off. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an activity that we share with interested in coming to camp. Our camp's open to anyone, and this is an activity that we all do. Like, so we make the sand bread pits. You want to go back over that way or no?
Now I'd like to talk a little bit about, let's go sit by the fire, okay? I want to talk a little bit about where we camp. And like we had said earlier, it's called Yagi. And there's a natural fissure that comes out there in the land. And it's an open area. And so there's water that comes down there to there. And like I had said earlier, our grandmother used to camp up at Sweetwater in Fort Dick area. And she did that for generations and years. Well, my mom said when she was a young kid, she was born in 1927, it really was windy down there a lot. So my grandmother went to her cousin that owned the land up there, they had an allotment, and she said, can we come down here and camp every year? And so they said, yes, sure, go ahead. So then they were able to come down. And what happened over time was that the Englishman Westbrook colonizing family came here into northwestern California, and they bought up a lot of the land. and they got the land both through stealing and fraudulent judges and that sort of thing. So what had happened with that particular allotment was 160 acres. Indian people didn't know that they had to pay taxes and things like that. And so there was some back taxes that was owed on that land. So Westbrooks took it to the county courthouse here and had a judge give them the land for like $14.85. It was next to nothing. And so then Westbrooks had it in their possession. So when we were kids growing up, our mom would always go to Westbrooks and say, can we camp on the beach? Because we'd have to drive through their cow field to get down there, because at that time it was a cow field. So every year we would go get permission, went down there, and so it got to the point where the Westbrooks decided that they wanted to do a land development, and so they went ahead and wanted to bring in a gated community. You can see the Bashuk is coming out here now.
That one broke.
And it broke.
So what I'm doing right now is sometimes a few of the pebbles will stick. My oven's getting a little bit cooler on this side. We're going to need to move it, but you use the paddle and bang the pebbles right off. Then you don't get a rock in your mouth when you take a bite.
And so what had happened is that they wanted to run us off. And so it ended up to where my mother, Eunice Baumlin, and my brother, Lauren McLachlan Baumlin, and different ones had to go to the county, had to go to the committees all over the state and get us access for us to be there. And so Westbrook decided to put in a cement trail. And that's what we have now, the beach access. It's easy. And we have a right, it's in the CCNRs for that gay community to camp there and dry smell. Any Tolowa Dene person can camp down there from June to September. And what has happened over the years is that it's ended up only being 2 families left at camp now. Our family and the Brown family that comes down from the Lopez, Adelina Lopez family. And so what we do now is camp every year. And my mother, there was 4 of us. She gave each one of us jobs to do. And one of the jobs she gave me was to make sure we had fish camp. And so every year we've been down there. My husband's a school teacher. So he would come every summer and camp down there. Our family members would camp down there, all over. And my mom said when she was a girl, there were campfires all the way up and down the beach. And so then over the years, we've had to maintain that right, because we have rights. If you don't exercise your rights, we'll lose them. And there's always somebody waiting to take away your rights. So we've had to fight tooth and nail to keep what we have. But we persevere. That's one thing I love about Indian people, is that we adapt. Our ancestors came down here and did a lot of things. Now we have metal, we have saws, we have things that we work with to make the things that we do, which is fine because we live in this day and age. And that's what's happened with our families all along. Whenever they needed to do something, they carried it on. That tradition is still there, and that's what we're carrying. So when our parents taught us to learn, teach, that's what we do. And Mom always said, what kind of old person are you going to be? She said, someday we're going to die. Everyone dies. Are you going to be someone who knows something that you can teach? Are my grandchildren going to know anything? And so that's why we carry it on. And so one year, 2015, Don and I could not be at camp. J-Tuck, his sister, his wife, my nieces and nephews, their first cousins, all went down to the beach and set camp up. And they only had one elder come through, and that was my sister-in-law, Diana Baumlin. And they came through, they had camp set up, fish had ran. So when we got back, it was ready, it was done. All the kids did it, all the first cousins did all this work. I stood there and I cried, and I said, now I can die. Because my job was to teach the young people to make sure this tradition carried on to my children and my grandchildren. So now I can go in peace.
So we're moving the fire. So Cindy's moving the fire over right now because it's gonna be a hot spot now. This one needs to be heated back up again. We got this fire on. It's about 5 or 6 hours it took me an hour to light it. So with the wet wood, it's had a little bit of a struggle. But now we're just gonna move over to the other side to flop some more bread in, and then Auntie's gonna throw some fish in to show you how we eat dried fish. like Auntie was saying, this is a common staple for our communities up and down the coast. It's definitely an art in giant fish. Like Auntie said, it takes 2 weeks for us to process dried fish.
And so what I'm doing here is just making sure all the ash is off the rocks. That fine ash from the fire, kind of fluff it up and it gets out of there. You want to throw a piece in, Marva?
Come on, I get Cindy's. Why should I use mine?
No, go for it. Up there. Let's go.
Vicky's flour's done.
So she's moving the rocks back, and she wants to make a nice flat space under that gravel. If it's too concave, you're gonna get more like a taco out of it.
Yeah.
You want a nice flat piece of bread when you're done. I think we're good.
I think we're good, Mom.
And that's the fresh made dough from Auntie Vicky. And then she covers it up with a hot gravel. And then she's gonna throw a marker on there so she doesn't forget where it is. We always forget where one piece is. You smell it after a while. And then she can make another spot right next to it.
Right?
Yep. And you know, it's just on the time. This is going to be hot because we just moved the fire. So this is going to cook a little bit faster. You can do several rounds depending on how hot those rocks are. It's very smoky. You can see from my eyes watering. It's a hot, smoky job. And we'll just using the oven on this side.
And then we're transferring back and forth.
Mm-hmm. And you know, at the beach, this is fun. We all sit around. This is when we talk, tell stories. The kids join in. We carve our paddles down at the beach. They burn up. They're a utilitarian tool. Yeah, that was a little bit hot. That's all right. She's going to pull this one out here. Yep, a little bit hot. Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, you get it done?
Yeah. And then she'll pound the rocks off, a little bit doughy.
Check that other one too.
No, it's all good. I think it's good.
It is too doughy.
But it's all right. So usually we have one test product when you move the fire because she's filling out what the temperature is. So now she knows how hot it is. It's burned a little bit on the outside, doughy a little bit on the inside. So she knows it's a little bit too hot. So we'll let this cool down for a few minutes and then we'll try another piece. And that's how you do it. It did turn out.
No, it's
A little bit too hot.
Yeah, but it's a little bit raw. Hand your paddle, CD, please.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna put a little bit of shumption here, and see what happens. Like we said, there's a very hot oven right now. But what I'm gonna do is similar to what Cindy and Marva did. We're gonna move aside some of these rocks. And I'm gonna lay this, oops, it's cooked in here.
Yep.
Shumped in here. Just like that, we're gonna make a little tray. And then we're gonna lay these in here. And we always put the tails out this way. Since this is a very hot. So what am I gonna cover these up? Now, usually what we do at the beach, I love to eat these on the third day dry, when they've been out there drying for 3 days. They're perfect for cooking in the fire down at the beach. And when it's cooking, see that steam coming off of there? Very hot, they're burning. Oops. That's hot. Oh, toss some stuff. Set. Tink, set.
such very hot, too hot to handle. So you gotta break the backs down. You gotta wiggle the body around like this, pull the head off, and then you go back behind the spine to pull it apart. And we clean out all the guts. But it's super hot. That's why I'm like struggling here. As you can see, it's dried all the way through. We pull out all the spine and actually some people eat these whole without even taking the heads off or anything dried. I've seen people do that. You put all this and if you want to be on the skinny vibe, you dip them in butter. So they taste really good. So you always have a taste or look them. This is what it looks like. Super tasty. The times we're at the beach is a really good time to build community because there's a lot of opportunity to teach. So during the camp time, the guys work on nets. We work on carving sticks for fish cooking. We go climbing. They go pole fishing for perch. That's a big part of our meal. We go get juma, which is sea anemone, and we eat that as part of our meal down there. The last few years, we've been doing a seafood feast where they're bringing down some gooey ducks and prawns from up north. Was it the Quinault? The Quinaults? We get fish from up north and all kinds of sea life. And we have a big old feast down at the beach. But our day starts early because the fish have to dry and they're covered at night so that the dew doesn't get them wet again. So you have to be real vigilant because we have to pull the covers off of the fish in the morning, and we have to stay on the fish the whole time. Did you get that one out, honey? We're really sorry about the connection. And the spot that we're at is a really poor connection. A vigilant process because we have to stay with the fish when they're uncovered. You can't leave them at all. So we take turns in watching the fish so that the seagulls don't get them because they're real tricky. They'll have a couple of them sneaking around and trying to throw you off. One behind trying to come up and grab some fish. So, but we also open our camp with protocols, cultural protocols that we do, and open that in prayer and to the Creator for offering us the spot, and then hopefully we get fish. You're always praying for fish. There's a lot of different protocols that our kids can't do while we're fishing down the beach. We can't play with feathers. We can't play with the seaweed. We can't get in the water. So during fishing season, it's like a lot of rules, but there's reasons because we want to make sure we get fish. And those things, we always are really strict about that. The kids make playing sticks down there. We offer stick games. The last few years, we've offered other people to come up and, well, we always do. But we've had days where we shared the culture and be a part of it and learn and carried on. Here's some acorn bread, sanshin gutshao. And here's some harvested blackberry that the auntie and them guys harvested this year. And so we just get it ready with some butter, of course, and then some homemade jam. It's a good time to share of our year's harvest. Mama.
Oh, that's it. Cornbread. Good. You want a piece, Wanda?
So my mom's been a sandbread maker forever. I don't know, Mom, when did you start making sandbread?
Way back there. Before Jake was born.
So 74, 73?
In the early 70s.
Nice.
That's good.
And it's really important for us to teach these techniques and these.
This is acorns and flour. And it's very good.
That is so good.
It's pure
It's
acorn
better
flour.
than the ones I taste from your rock country. It is. She's got the recipe packed.
So another part of our tradition is sharing. So when we get our first fresh catch of the season, we always share with our community. All of our elders, people who reach out to us, people who we know who love K-Guess or clumps. And so we love sharing with our Yurok elders who enjoy it. And so I got to make my way down there to see Susie Long here pretty quick. She had asked, and we got some for her. And well, so does any questions anyone has? A lot of pride in that, you know, to in comparison of the different breads. That's my mom was saying, you know, how proud she is of her bread making skills, and she's passed it on to me, and I'm passing it on to my daughter who was just here a minute ago, and
Pass it on to Cindy.
and Cindy over here at the.
Taye and Cindy.
She's taught my niece and Taye and our cousin Cindy, and so we're real thankful that my mom is here to do that with us.
I can't do it anymore because I'm too crippled.
Yeah, Marva.
Or I would be. I just can't get around anymore.
And I'm real thankful that my mom and my auntie were able to come and share with me today. So I'm real thankful that my mom and my auntie and my cousins were all able to come, and my mom was willing to do that today, and my auntie to get around and share her awesome words and be a part of this activity, because it really does take all of us to continue this on.
Yeah, thank you guys for being able to be available today. This is really amazing. It did cut out a little bit when you were talking about the fire preparation and making the oven. I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit more about that preparation process.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go back over to that way. Okay. So it's they want to talk about the process of the fire and okay, so the fire is an all-day process. We have to get this fire started and hot early in the day. In order for us to cook today, we had to start this fire at 7:30 this morning. So in order for us to be ready at 2, we had to be down here with the alder. We skin our alder wood. We don't use the bark. And so we have some seasoned alder wood right here, and that's what we use for our smoke and our fish as well. And so we use that and skinned it up and got our fire going. We're thankful for Chuck coming down here to help us split it and get us going too. J-Tech Stomach, our fisherman extraordinaire over here. And so the process of making the sandbread pit is steps. There's different steps to it. There's layers. So we use these different rocks. We're so thankful that Nicole Aubrey shared her cooking kit with us here over at the Head Start. So typically we would get these kind of rocks right here. These blonde colored rocks, and these are their liners for the bottom of the pit. So the pit's about what? I know it's about 3 feet, 3.5 feet deep, and it takes about how many 5-gallon buckets? I mean, in this gravel, we have to go get it down below sea level. I mean, when it has to be low tide in order for us to get this gravel. So it's not accessible during like a regular tide day. It has to be a low tide for us to access it. And then we have to look for it throughout the beach line because it's not always in the same spots where we can access it. And that's where the fish usually lay their eggs and spawn and stuff is in the gravel.
So it'll take at least three of these tubs full, at least just for the small gravel. And then it's lined with large rocks to help shape it, hold the heat in, and then we fill it with this small gravel, Knocket Yonstum, which is the same gravel that this smelt are spawning in. And that takes us a good day to build this pit. We always gather the gravel after, when the tide's going out, so it's nice and clean. We build the pit and let it dry out. And then like Marva said, the fire has to be started very early to heat this all up. Several hours of hot fire on this before we start using it to cook.
So we'd like to have my cousin J-Tuck share some about fishing and net making and techniques and why this is so important.
Delaha, Shahushi, J-Tuck Steinreich. Hello, my name is J-Tuck Steinreich, and we'll talk a little bit about the net. This is a traditional, A-frame net. Of course, this is, commercial grade, mesh that we had got. But, traditionally, we all North Coast Indians would have made this out of iris fiber. So you can only imagine what this would have been like. You would have been a very wealthy man if you had one of these nets made all out of iris fiber. We did a net making class in 2014, and that's when this net was produced. I think we ended up making about 20 nets at that time. So these right here are young fir saplings, poles, and then just with the bark knocked off. You can use other wood. We did actually do a split, went down to the beach and found some nice redwood and some Port Orford cedar and split those down. And then we used a draw knife to shape them. But these actually came from, I believe, Trinity County. So over there where our grandfather's from. The reason why, it's hard to see what direction these are facing, but when you're not fishing with a smelt net and it's open, you always want to face it towards the mountainside, or away from the ocean. So that I was always taught, if you don't do that, then the fish won't run. So to, the east of us here is the mountain. And then another, kind of protocols with your net is, on a hot day when you're down on the beach, if you're fishing and you have a wet net, you don't ever want to lay your net down on the hot sand, because it'll actually cook your net and make it brittle and ruin it. One of the things I was taught too was don't ever loan your net out unless you really trust that person, because you don't know what it's going to be like when it gets back, because some people don't take care of it as well as you might, because you put your time, your energy went into this to make it. It's your tool now. So, and then just gonna give you an idea, like this is just a piece of driftwood. You want to go just had a little break there in the connection, but this is a piece of driftwood that I found on the beach, and whatever stands out to you. Some people like them a little bit curved, some people like them straight. I picked this one out because it was a piece of hardwood. It's oak, I believe. And then I kind of liked how the beaver here, and I left that on there. He marked that up, and so he logged that one, and I just shaped it. Same with that net there. a piece of driftwood, and that one's actually made out of closet rods, I believe, that you can get at the hardware store. The straps here are just an actual semi truck tube, and I learned that from my grandmother and my great uncle. They used. I would imagine back in the day, our ancestors probably used, other bigger twine, bigger cordage. But rubber works good now, because it's you can break these down and wrap it up and throw it in your truck or whatever needs to be.
How to break down that?
Yeah, I can show you guys briefly how to break it down. You don't have to do this, but if you don't have a truck with a big bed, you can take this and unravel it. And to give you guys kind of an idea, for 7 years I worked in the natural resource, hired on there as a tribal resource, first a specialist, tech, and then onto a specialist. And we wanted to find out what was going on with their smell. We have seen a major decline in our runs of surfish or flunch, and we got a grant through U.S. Fish and Wildlife to do a smelt habitat assessment. And we did that and we're continuing to still do it. But what we found out is the habitat's there for them to spawn in. It's some other factor, accumulation of things. People always ask me, well, what do you think it is? And I says, well, humans, all of us, are rapidly destroying our ocean, and so it's all over. It's not just one said person or one group of people. We need to do better to be stewards of the sea and take care of our ocean so it'll continue to feed us. And so I was happy to have that job, and I got hired on because our family, like my mom and my aunt were talking, and my cousin, we've been doing this fish camp forever, and they wanted that traditional knowledge aspect of it. Even though I was worked with a marine biologist and other folks throughout the state and internationally on this project. So that was just a little rundown on where my background is and where I was working until I recently got elected to tribal council for Tallawahdaini Nation. So that's how you break it down. And if you want to, you can take the other handle off if you really want, but it's just, if you're in a hurry and fish are running, you leave one side and then you don't have to do it both. So
thank you, Tuck. Now we're gonna go over here to my aunt who wants to talk a little bit about California Indian Day, because that's a big part of our community here.
It's our people who made California Indian Day. It was during the days of the Delaware Indian Welfare Association. Now, we had to go through a termination with Eisenhower when he came into office and terminated Indians and thought they were going to make us all white people. And so the people here in this area chose to go with that termination. Now, we grew up at Neely Chundan, which is a village about a mile up South Bank Road, and we were not terminated. The allotment that we live on actually never was ever terminated, but the people down here were. Well, during that time period, and we didn't stop being Indians. We just weren't recognized as a federally recognized tribe any longer. So the Del Norte Indian Welfare Association formed with all the elders and people at that time, and they ran business meetings here and kept this tribe together. And they came together in a place called Guschu Hall right across the way from here. And Guschu means redwood tree in our language. And so they came together and had meetings every month. They had structure. They had all kinds of things, activities. We would have potlucks down at the river bar during the summertime. We'd have Christmas parties. All this kind of stuff went on. Well, so what they decided to do, the leadership at that time, And this was during the Reagan days. They pushed in the state of California to get the California Indian Day recognized. They helped draft the legislation. They pushed it through right here from where we're sitting is where California Indian Day comes from. So anytime you want to go back and study the history, you can see it comes from the Ottawa people, and that we are very proud of that. And we have always had our Dani Day, our things like that happening on California Indian Day as a tribe. But with COVID-19 happening, we have to adapt. So thank you so much for coming here and celebrating this special day with us. We really, really appreciate it. And that's one thing I like about Indian people. You know, you're talking a little bit about Nova Scotia, the rights that they're trying to protect. We have to protect our rights. We have to stand together to do that. If we don't, they will wipe us out. We're such a small amount. We went through the Dani Holocaust, okay? When the white people came, the Euro-Americans came from the East Coast to the West Coast. By the time they got to the West Coast, they knew how to take care of us. They massacred us. The survivors were put on reservations. The rest were sent to Timbuktu, who knows? We were taken to Umatilla, Siletz, Yakima, Hoopa Valley, Klamath Reserve, you know. And there was even a reservation ranch over here in Smith River, and they brought the Humboldt County Indians up here, the Wiots. And I can remember a story when I was a kid, and Sam Lopez Dicey, he was our leader. He told us a story about one time he said they had the people over here, and they ended up telling them, you can leave now. So when they went to leave, they massacred them all. They built a huge ditch and threw all their bodies in there. They still have remains over there from the Wiyot people. So we know that, and we come from that. But we know what? We're not going to let that stop us. That's why we're doing what we're doing today. We're thankful that we can have this blessing in our lives to have our ability to share this with you and anyone who wants to know. I call it a heart condition. I feel like if someone has a desire to learn something, learn it. We have the brain capacity. We have the heart capacity. Diversity is what it's all about. And it doesn't change who you are and your identity. It helps you expand your identity of being that person. So thank you so much to Ashinila Guatlation, Disri Nation. Hey. Okay, one last song we have to sing.
Oh, wait, Mom wants to say something about California Day.
In 1966, we had our first California Indian Day at Neely Chendan, and it was 40 years since the regalia came out of the trunks before they got to see sunlight again and joy. And I was one of the maidens that got to wear a dress that hadn't been worn for 40 years. And it was such an awesome, powerful moment for me. And I'm so proud to be a Native American woman today. And I thank Marva and whoever's putting this on. You guys keep up the good work. It's nice. Thank you.
So are there any more questions, or do you guys want to move to a closing? Or
Yeah, if you guys are ready to sing us home, that sounds good.
okay.
Ready?
Plumschelaten tela quinten hunale. Hey ya no, haya. Hey ya no, ho, haya. Hey ya no, ho, haya. Hey ya no, ho, haya. And hey, we thank you all, and we thank our ancestors to be here, and we thank you for this beautiful day. And here's our finished product along with all of our other harvested foods.
Ashinila.
Aftu. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you guys for sharing this little bit of knowledge with us, you know, and I'm sure we could have made a whole day out of it, but you know, this hour was pretty special. Right on, J Tuck. We appreciate you guys so much. And I want to say to the audience, that our next episode, we're going to be looking at deer meat processing and canning up and everything. And so tune in. That's going to be 2 weeks. We're keeping with our schedule of every second Friday. So yeah, this is, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words in a certain way. You know, this is a really, really special time.
Shitshaw.
Astu.
Astu.
So,
True.
Astu.